Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama-sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srinvata Swakatha Krishna Punyasravana Kirtanaha Vedantastoya Badhrani Vidinote Suhritsatam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Good morning. Welcome back to our everyday discussion and reading on Srimad Bhagavatam. We are continuing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 1, Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu. We'll read verse 53 to 57. 53. Yayorjanmani ado vishwam abhyanandat sunirvritam manamsi kakubhovata prasedhu saritodrayaha. We'll do the synonyms only for the last verse. We'll go with the translation. Translation. On the occasion of the appearance of Naranarayana, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus in all directions, the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant. Verse 54 and 55. Divyavadyantatauryani petu kusumavrishtaya munayastustustusta jagur gandharva kinnara nityanti sma striyo devya asit paramamangalam deva brahmadaya sarve upatastur abhistavai. Translation. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. The denizens of heaven, known as the Gandharvas and Kinnaras, sang. The beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets danced. And in this way, at the time of appearance of Naranarayana, all signs of good fortune were visible. Just at that time, great demigods like Brahma also offered their respectful prayers. Devauchuhu yo mayaya virachitam nijayatmanidam kerupabedam ivatat pratichakshanaya etena dharma sadane rishimurtina nadya pradushchakara purushaya namaparasmai. Synonyms. Deva, the demigods. Uchuhu, said. Yaha, Mayaya, by the external energy. Virachitam, was created. Nijaya, by his own. Atmani, being situated in him. Idam, this. K, in the sky. Rupa Bedham, bunches of clouds. Iva, as if. Tat, of himself. Pratichakshanaya, for manifesting. Etena, with this. Dharma sadane, in the house of Dharma. Rishi Murtina, with the form of a sage. Adya, today. Praduschakara, appeared. Purushaya, unto the personality of Godhead. Namaha, respectful obeisances. Parasmai, the Supreme. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The demigod said, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead, who created as his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space, and who has now appeared in the form of Naranarayana Rishi in the house of Dharma. Purport. The universal form of the Lord is the cosmic manifestation, which is an exhibition of the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In space, there are innumerable varieties of planets and also the air. And in the air, there are variously colored clouds, and sometimes we see airplanes running from one place to another. Thus, the entire cosmic manifestation is full of variety. But actually, that variety is a manifestation of the external energy of the Lord, Supreme Lord, and that energy is situated in Him. Now the Lord Himself, after manifesting His energy, appeared within the creation of His energy, which is simultaneously one with and different from Himself. And therefore the demigods offered their respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who manifests Himself in such varieties. There are some philosophers called non dualists, who, because of their impersonal conception, think that varieties are false. In this verse, it is specifically stated, Yo Mayaya Virachitam. This indicates that the varieties are a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, because the energy is non different from the Godhead, the varieties are also factual. The material varieties may be temporary, but they are not false. They are a reflection of the spiritual varieties. Here the word pratichakshanaya. There are varieties. Announces the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared as Naranarayana Rishi and who is the origin of all varieties of material nature. Let us offer up some prayers and ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे I feel kind of blessed to be sandwiched between Gopal Hari Prabhu speaking yesterday and Mara speaking tomorrow. So in between both of them, kind of feeling in a way conflicting emotions, to be honest. But we'll take this as a service and we'll see. So one thing that Srila Prabhupada has kind of also discusses this in detail in this specific purport is the concept of variety and how the entire external manifestation, the cosmic manifestation and the universal form are exhibition of the external energy of the Lord. And then he also talks about the varieties and all of that. So one of the very famous pastimes of Narayana Rishi that we are all aware is when Narayana Rishi, they're very famous for performing the spirit of austerity. It is also explained. Srila Prabhupada actually explains in multiple purports. I was just trying to do some research on Veda based on Narayana Rishi. And Srila Prabhupada in multiple purports kind of explains that the epitome of austerity, the performing of tapasya and austerity was performed by Narayana Rishi. And anything that has to be and kind of done to the highest level, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead could achieve that. So Narayana Rishi, as in their course of time when they were performing these deep, highest levels of penances and austerities, Lord Indra becomes scared that, as it so happens in various pastimes, and as we understand from our acharyas also, Lord Indra becomes quite scared about who are these two twin boys who are performing this intense tapasya. Will there be any kind of threat to my own position as the king of demigods? And like it so happens, he sends an entire entourage of the Apsaras, Cupid, to make sure that they can distract Narayana Rishi. And as Cupid comes there and he's trying to entice Narayana Rishi from breaking from their intense concentration of performing tapasya, he tries to create a beautiful atmosphere of spring. Like we also have heard this famous example of Vishwamitra also, where he comes and then Vishwamitra kind of then derails from his position of tapasya, and then kind of it's a different story. But there is a kind of standard um, SOP, structured way of work how Lord Indra and Cupid kind of work, and they try to follow the same with the case in the case of Narayana Rishi also. And Narayana and Rishi then kind of do not even get disturbed. Rather than getting disturbed, what they do is they do not even kind of wake up. From their body, they create an Apsarasa whose name is Urvasi, who is kind of considered the most beautiful Apsarasa that is ever created. And just seeing her beauty, everybody gets mesmerized, and then she eventually goes with the entire entourage of um, Cupid that comes in. So when we speak of variety, Lord Indra tried to create kind of in one sense a lot of variety that in to entice both Narayana and Rishi from what they were trying to do. But in spite of whatever was happening there, they did not get disturbed, but rather they created a variety which was way surpassing in beauty and in every barometer that was there. So the original source of variety is the Supreme Personality of Godhead from that standpoint. And one of the challenge that also comes is with this understanding of varieties, when we talk of variety, then it might so appear that um, I think I'm kind of losing. But when we kind of try to talk about the variety, then it's also a challenge of what is the basis from on which we kind of place this variety. What I'm trying to kind of get to is, let me just take a look at my notes. It's kind of slightly losing the plot here. Um, but yeah, so after this Urvasi pastime and this one, well, so I was trying to kind of equate the variety. Sorry, I didn't get much chance to prepare, so I'm kind of losing the plot. Um, but one thing that I actually wanted to, other than this, wanted to discuss in was, yeah, yeah. So this one. Thus, the entire cosmic manifestation is full of variety, but actually that variety is a manifestation of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and that energy is situated in Him. So, as Cupid was trying to create that additional manifestation of the external energy through the variety, but as because the source of the internal energy, the Lord Himself was situated, it did not even fascinate Him. And then He created something that was over surpassing everything else. So as long as we are established within the internal energy, and I kind of want to bring that back to one more pastime of the same Narayana Rishi, especially the Rishi Narayana, and trying to connect back to this story is the internal energy, and what do we mean by, like, it's kind of sometimes a vague representation of when we say as being established in the internal energy. And one more story that I kind of wanted to discuss was, this comes from Krishna book chapter 87. So the story goes like this, that Narad Rishi had it so happens that we have seen even in the Bhagavatam third canto, he approaches Lord Brahma and asks a set of questions on who is the creator, are you the actual creator, because I only see you as the creator. And then Lord Brahma then explains the actual Chatushloki Bhagavata and explains the identity of the original Brahman and his real identity. And in the Krishna book, chapter 87, Srila Prabhupada explains that the same conversation Narada Muni had with Narayan Rishi also. So Narada Muni once approached Narayan Rishi in the Badrikashram, and then he says that this is my question. Like I want to understand what is the source of everything that is there, and what is the identity of Brahman, and how do I understand? And then Narayan Rishi explains that this is not a new question that that is being asked. This question is actually discussed in multiple times by multiple sages, and I want to specifically refer to you to one specific pastime that happened where then he says that there are multiple planets, and in one of the planet, Janaloka, like in this planet when Sanaka and all the rishis, as we read from the initial pages of Bhagavatam, as they approached and then were discussing on kind of various, they wanted to perform this sacrifice. Similarly, in Janaloka, there was an assembly of different kind of sages, and few of those sages were four Kumaras assembled, and they were trying to discuss questions that even Vedas couldn't answer. Now, Srila Prabhupada does not go into detail in answering this specific point of how is it that Vedas were not able to answer, and why is it that the devotees were discussing topics that even Vedas couldn't answer, and kind of tying that back to the verse that Krishna says in Bhagavatam. Like he's the end goal of understanding of the Vedas. And what the devotees were discussing was to understand the identity of Brahman. And then there are this entire assembly of devotees that came. And interestingly, Narayan Rishi says to Narada Muni that you were not present in that assembly because you came to take my darshan as my expansion of Anuruddha. So you came there, and that was the reason that you are not part of this assembly. And Narayan Rishi then explains that eventually then they decided, and all of them met. They wanted to discuss the identity of Brahman, and then they felt that Sanandana, one of the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara, Sanandana, they decided that you will be the spokesperson, and we will ask you all the questions, and you will be the person who will kind of enlighten us. And then Sanandana then spoke. Srila Prabhupada actually writes that in detail about what Sanandana spoke, and in essence, what Sanandana spoke is as how Lord Brahma explained Brahman and his identity in the third canto and in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. In the similar line, Sanandana also explains, and then that is what Narayan Rishi explains to Narada Muni when he asks about the identity of the Brahman. And what I'm trying to also equate is we understand that the understanding of the Brahman is only explained to us when we are situated in the internal energy. But here, Narayan Rishi, whom Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas have acknowledged that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when Narada Muni approaches, or when Lord Brahma is similar to how Lord Brahma has approached Lord, and Lord just explained him the knowledge. But here, Narayan Rishi, to set an example, rather than just kind of, oh, you are approaching me, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything. Rather than directly kind of explaining it to him, he's relying back on the knowledge in one sense that is passing down this disciplic succession. And that is the exact point that even Srila Prabhupada writes, that Narayan Rishi then explains what his predecessors, in one sense, even though he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because Sanandana, and kind of in one sense, his predecessors have discussed and explained. Narayan Rishi is exactly explaining the same knowledge as the four Kumaras have explained. And in that sense, is following the parampara and then giving the knowledge. And Narada also is not boasting that, oh, I know this. If it is just the Kumaras, then I don't have to kind of worry about what you're saying. I can directly approach the Kumaras. But he is approaching a guru who's directly accessible to him, and then trying to learn from him the same understanding that is coming down the disciplic succession. So when we talk of this, um, trying to help us, we understand like there are this lot of these understandings that we get. And in fact, in one of the books, Srila Prabhupada also writes that the greatest benefit of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in one sense, that he has given is the ability of utilizing a lot of these modern amenities that are available. In one sense, a variety of the external energy that provides us. Um, because initially, like traditionally, um, as part of performance of the devotional service, there are a lot of things that the devotees were discouraged to do it. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in many, like I think even in one of the recent presentations that Rampad Maharaj was doing on the appearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Maharaj was also saying, was showing different pictures of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and was saying that in how he was kind of a trendsetter of, he was ready to use automobiles, he was used to dress up well, um, in kind of, which were, for a non-dualist, as Srila Prabhupada explains, they try to deny all this variety. But a devotee is happy to take up the variety, even though with the understanding that this variety is still a manifestation of external energy. But even with that, going by the principle that Rupa Goswami says, Yukta Vairagya, because they understand the original source is from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated themselves in the internal energy, they are aptly able to use the manifestation of different varieties that comes out of the external energy. And how do we place ourselves in the shelter of the internal energy is by being blessed with the understanding and then the knowledge that is passing down from the Guru Parampara, from the Acharya, from the disciplic succession, as Narayan Rishi is explaining, even though we see that multiple times also, right? Not just as Narayan Rishi, we also see that in the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not manifest anything, the actual purpose that he came up until he met Ishwarapuri. And interestingly, he later on goes on to say that, yeah, my spiritual master told I was a fool. And then, because I'm a fool, I cannot understand any of this Vedic knowledge. And he has just asked me to kind of be happy chanting and propagate this mission of chanting. And now, do we think that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually a fool? No, but do we fully agree to the mood that what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is presenting? Is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu faking when he's saying that? No. So it's kind of in a way Achintya Bheda Bheda, where he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in that mood of a disciple, is strictly following what his acharyas have said. And like we kind of see that in multiple times. So in spite of being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan Rishi, when it comes to the propagation of the message and understanding the identity of Brahman and everything related to him. When we say identity of Brahman, it's not just because it's not just the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Lord Ramachandra or as Kana or Varahadev or all of that, but even when Lord Brahma is explaining in the third canto and later on also, they explain the creation of how it happens. And later in this specific chapter, then we will go on to read, in this canto, we will go on to read the story of Daksha and everything else that is kind of related. Brahman, as explained in the Bhagavatam, Brahman is kind of everything. And in trying to understand that, the safest position is to be under the shelter, to be always under, because it's derailing into a different understanding or denying is much more easier than to kind of exhibiting that effort of trying to understand the internal energy working and external energy working through the lines of how the acharyas have presented. So with the so the safest bet is to kind of be under the shelter of our spiritual masters, as how Narada Muni has approached Lord Narayana, Narayan Rishi, and then seek the understanding of Brahman and his real identity, and then Narayan Rishi then referred him back to the discussion of the predecessor acharyas, and with that, then he explained what everything was happened. So the safest bet is to be under the shelter of one another, and then also as a community, as one another, under the shelter of our Guru Vargas. I'm extremely sorry. It was kind of quite haphazard preparation, but if there are any corrections or comments, we'll leave the floor open. If nothing, I think we'll.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Lakshmikant Prabhu.
No, I was just thinking when you said Naranarayan Rishi and Naradmani, so I was thinking about the Bharat Maharaj that we were reading last Sunday, right? I mean, when he was in the forest, so he was not having. I mean, I know suddenly that thought came to me. So when you're talking about how, I mean, of course, here Naranarayan Rishi is setting an example. I mean, being a supreme lord. So, but I was just thinking, I mean, how Bharat Maharaj was not for his reason to kind of deviate from the path, right? So he was not having that kind of um, support or guidance. I know it's not directly related, bro, but the thought came to me. So just thinking. So,
Yeah, thank you.
so, I mean, support is always good. I mean, so even whatever stage that is there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it may not
that's
be directly related to what you are saying, but yeah, I was just thinking,
yeah,
such a great personality like Bharat Maharaj.
correct. Yeah, the importance of shelter.
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Varsana here.
Hare Krishna.
I also had a little bit of a tangential point to make. You were saying Narayana Rishi is the Supreme Lord, and yet, he points to what he learns from his Guru. That's mood of our Lord Chaitanya as well. We were listening to Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, and Maharaj was saying, so many Vaishnava groups are there, and for them, what differentiates them and ISKCON? Because they say their founder is God, we say our founder is God. The Maharaj was saying the difference is that what did the founder say? So for us, Lord Chaitanya never called himself as God. He would close his ears, right, whenever people would call him that way. But yes, as followers, we do take him that way. But his teaching was always to follow Krishna and Krishna's teachings. So, uh, yeah, I just thought I'll bring about that parallel between what Narayana Rishi did and what I'm.
Thank
And
you.
yes,
That
thank you.
has actually been my meditation for quite some days. That actually answers a lot of questions in my head. Thank you. Thank you. But I'm sorry, my preparation was not to the level this class requires. So I sincerely apologize. If no other questions, I think we'll give you your 1 minute back, which is very rare. But yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Vancha
Hare Krishna.
Asantabhyo Chapatitanam Bhavayabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo.